Thank you for joining us for this North Metro TV Local Decision 2016 Candidate Spotlight. I'm Ben Hale, sitting down with Representative Tom Hackbarth. Tom, thanks for being here today, first of all.
Thanks for having me.
I want to just start by giving you a chance to reintroduce yourself to the voters and explain to us why you decided to run in this primary election.
Okay, my name is Tom Hackbarth. I'm your Senate District and House District 31B candidate. I've been the state representative for this area for the past 20 years. I'm the chairman of the Mining and Outdoor Recreation Committee. I did lose the endorsement to my opponent in the endorsement process. I lost by one vote on the second ballot at the convention level. I was ready to hang it up and move on with my life, but I was encouraged by my caucus colleagues. I received 70 names out of 73 names in our caucus, Republican conservatives. 70 people encouraged me to run in this race in the primary, and also I received a number of different phone calls and emails from constituents in the area encouraging me to run. So I decided to give it a shot, and we're giving it all we've got.
Talk to me a little bit about what you think happened in the endorsing convention, why you think the party didn't give you the endorsement this time around.
My opponent's been challenging me since 2012 with the redistricting of every 10 years they redraw the lines. And in this new Senate District 31B, when that started in 2012, my opponent challenged me for the endorsement at that time, and I won the endorsement. The next time around in 2014, he challenged me again, and I won the endorsement, and quite handily. So then 2016 came around, and he challenged me again for the endorsement. And he's very persistent, and that's okay. Going into these conventions, you campaign the caucus attendees to try to get them to be your delegates at the convention. And I did that, and I'm sure he did as well. And I was sure that I had plenty of delegates lined up at the convention. It was April 1st. It was a beautiful, beautiful day that day. And I just think it was a matter of circumstance. They endorsed the Senate candidate early on in the convention. They endorsed the 31A candidate early on in the convention. Then they did all the other convention business. And because there was a contested race in 31B, they kept us to the end. Well, people wanted to go home. In the very, very beginning, before the convention starts, you go through a screening process and people ask you whether you're going to abide by the endorsement. I had my delegates lined up and they were at the convention. I thought for sure I was going to have the endorsement, like I have the previous two times, and many other times going through the endorsement process. I've never not gotten the endorsement. So I was sure I was going to get the endorsement, but as time went on, and now it's in the afternoon, and now we're going to start doing the voting for this race, and neither one of the two candidates, myself or my opponent, had the 60% required on the first ballot. Took a long, long time to count those ballots. In the meantime, a lot more of my delegates left the convention. So my opponent won the endorsement on the second ballot by one vote, and then just barely won it with the correct percentage. So I was ready to walk away and not run again, but with the encouragement of my caucus and the citizens within the district, I decided to run.
If you do come out ahead in the primary election and move on to the general.
Oh, and I will.
How will you unify your party behind your candidacy?
Well, I think that from the door knocking that I've been doing, I think the people in my district are behind me. I think they're already there. There might be a handful of people that attend the BPOU conventions and the BPOU meetings, but I think for the most part, the Republicans in my district are behind Tom Hackbarth, and I think we'll see that in the primary election.
Okay. If you head back to St. Paul, what do you want to work on? What are goals that you want to accomplish in the next session?
Sure. Last legislative session, my number one priority was to get a bridge built in Columbus. If you're aware of the Highway 23, Highway 97 bridge over 35, just north of the 35E, 35W split, that bridge is in dire disrepair. I mean, it's just chunks of cement falling off of it. We need to replace that bridge, and we need to do it smart. And I had a proposal in the bonding bill last session to get this thing done. And I'm pushing that forward. If we don't have a special session to get that done after the primary, and there's a lot of talk about that in the news lately, if we don't have a if we don't have a special session to get that done, that will once again be my number one priority, to get that bridge built in Columbus. Other than that, there's a number of things with the DNR that I would like to see done. DNR has too much power, and I would like to see some of those things reduced. Some of their executive powers that they have to stop.
How will you work to, and I asked you a little bit about party unity, but how will you work to make the Minnesota legislature work better together?
Well, and you know, I think the media gives that a bad name. I think that I have good relationships with the people on the other side of the aisle. I'm the chairman of the Mining and Outdoor Recreation Committee in the Minnesota House, and mostly what's on my committee from the other side of the aisle are Democrats that are from up on the Iron Range, and I get along with them very, very well. Tom Anzel is the leader of the DFL side on our committee, and him and I get along very, very well. I have a long time standing good relationship working with Democrats on the other side of the aisle.
Right. Another big thing for politicians is communication back to those that you represent. Mm-hmm. How do you work to communicate with those in your district?
I have email updates that I put out weekly, sometimes twice a week, trying to let people know exactly what's going on at the Capitol. People are able to email me back and comment on the email updates that I send them. And I get very, very good positive feedback on that. So communication is key. Not a lot of people call me, send me bad emails, all those kinds of things. Things are very, very positive in my district. People seem to like what I'm doing, so I don't get a lot of complaints. But I try to keep people informed by way of email updates once or twice a week. Right now, those email updates can't happen because we have the election process going on.
Mm-hmm. As I know you talked a little bit, you talked about the bridge in Columbus that's important for you. Are there other, and the DNR, are there, speaking a little bit bigger picture, are there issues that are facing our state that you think are just the most important for those of you in St. Paul to deal with?
Well, I think transportation is a big issue, and as everybody might know, we did not get a transportation bill done this last legislative session. The Minnesota House got a transportation bill done, but they couldn't meet with the Senate and work out a compromise, so that is a big issue. We need to solve the transportation problem in the state of Minnesota. And that doesn't mean that we need to do a gas tax increase at all. There's plenty of money there. It's just how we disperse the money and direct it in different areas. I don't think that the people in our district want light rail or more commuter rail, that sort of thing. I think they want to see more roads and bridges, and we just have to redirect the money that we already have in the right direction.
And do you think that there's the ability to get a long-term transportation solution through that? You know, there's been talk about this 10-year transportation bill. Mm-hmm. Is there a potential for that?
Well, you know, I think that the Minnesota Department of Transportation, they're kind of on automatic pilot already. They have a list of things that they want to get done. And those things move forward even without any legislative action. So that plan is already in the works. Sometimes the Minnesota House of Representatives and the legislature have to redirect and tell the Minnesota Department of Transportation exactly maybe we should be taking a little bit different direction. So those kinds of things do need to take place.
Okay. I want to finish up today just simply, why should someone vote for you?
Well, I've got a lot of experience. I've got seniority. Our caucus, I'm one of the senior members in our caucus. I think people look up to me, and I think that I'm a good leader within our caucus and at the Minnesota legislature. I think both sides of the aisle respect me and my opinions on issues. I think that I'll probably be a chairman of a finance committee should the House Republicans maintain control of the Minnesota House the next time around. Right now I'm the Mining and Outdoor Recreation Committee, but that's a policy committee. I think that I'll probably be a chairman of a larger finance committee the next time around.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking some time today to come in and chat with us a little bit about your views on some of the issues. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to remind you that you can head to northmetrotv.com where you can catch any of our local decision coverage, more conversations and spotlights like this. Also, we have candidate biographies on our website as well. So all that's there for you on northmetrotv.com. I've been your host, Ben Hale. Thank you for watching. Joining us us for this North Metro TV Local Decision 2016 Candidate Spotlight. I'm sitting down today with Cal Barr, who's running in the Republican primary in Minnesota House District 31B. Cal, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
And I just want to start by giving you a chance to introduce yourself to us and to the voters, and then explain to us why you decided to run for this office.
Okay, my name's Calvin Barr. I typically will go by Cal, so either is fine. Small business owner, a 15, 16-year resident of East Bethel, and I decided to run for office because I noticed the government continues to grow, continues to impose more rules, regulations. It makes it more difficult to run and operate a business, which makes it more difficult to hire people, grow, expand, anything like that. So I decided to get into the arena and see if I could, in some small way, start making government more responsive to the people and the citizenry for which it serves.
Now, you got the endorsement from the Republicans in 31B this year. What was that process like for you?
The process itself wasn't real complicated. It's just you get a list of the delegates that were elected, walk up and explain who you are, what you want to do, have a conversation with them, and in usually 15, 20 minutes, they were agreeing. Part of the reason that I believe that I received the endorsement this time, as opposed to, this is my third time seeking the endorsement in this district. Over half of our delegates were first-time participants, people who had been on the sidelines and were just frustrated and didn't know what to do, and finally just jumped in and said, I'm going to be a delegate and see if this helps change anything. Was over 80 of the 147 delegates we had seated were first-time participants.
Okay. So if you are elected, what would you hope to accomplish? What are goals you have in mind?
Major reform of the Metropolitan Council is at the top of the list. I don't believe that we need a fifth layer of government between the people and their pocketbook, their lives. Between the city and the county and the state and the federal government, we really don't need a fifth one. Everything that the Met Council does can be done at a different level of government right now. Turning the Met Council into an elected position just adds that fifth layer, and I think that's totally unnecessary. Transportation is a huge issue around the metro area, but at the same time, we shouldn't be asking for outstate cities and counties to be paying for our trains and buses in the metro area. So there's some major overhaul that's going to need to be done to the way that's funded and taxed. The motor vehicle sales tax, everybody in the state pays it, but it all goes to mass transit. And that, while I actually agree with the governor that if you're going to have mass transit projects in the metro area, they should be funded by the people in the metro area. People in Candy, Ojai County should not be paying for the train and the bus in the metro. So there's some reform in there, transportation issues, and a few other. There's plenty of places that I could sink my teeth into and have some fun.
With the Met Council, it kind of sounds like your form of reform for that is abolishing it. Is that what you think when you say you don't need the fifth layer of government? Is that where you're going?
Almost. The parks and recs should be turned back to the cities, states, counties, whichever the smallest unit that entity, that park is wholly contained in. The Section 8 housing that they run should be the whole thing should be moved so the oversight is under HHS at the state legislature. The transportation should all be moved as a block so it has legislative oversight, and that leaves it with sewer and water. The sewer and water could then be funded, administrated, and the oversight agency could be the counties that it serves. So it wouldn't actually have any state involvement.
Okay. When you've talked about some issues already. To you, looking forward for the state as a whole, what's the most important issue you think facing the state of Minnesota in the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever it might be?
There's a couple of them. The fact that we continue to bond around $1 billion every cycle is getting to the point where it's going to become unsustainable shortly. If interest rates go up at all, we're going to have a problem. We're currently spending $1.2 billion per budget year, every year, just to service what we've already taken out. That's interest and principal payments. But $1.2 billion is a pretty healthy chunk of our state budget already. And if we add another billion every bonding year, it will become unsustainable in short order. So getting back to while we technically have a balanced budget, When you borrow $1 billion, that's not really a balanced budget. I mean, an average person, when they sit down, if they got to put 20% or 10% or 5% of their monthly expenses on a credit card, would not call that a balanced budget. So that is going to be an issue that needs to be addressed, and transportation is huge for the next 5 years to 10 years.
Now, there is a lot of different ideas bandied about in this last legislative session about how to fix transportation. Short-term fix, taking money from the general fund, gas tax, more money on license tab renewals, or sales tax in an area. Where do you fall on how to find some sort of long-term solution to the transportation infrastructure needs in the state?
Long-term solution would be to take the motor vehicle sales tax and eliminate that. Like I spoke earlier, when you have outstate cities and counties funding our metro trains and buses, that's not fair to the outstate people. Those are their transportation dollars being siphoned to do something that they will never use. Or if they come to a baseball or football game, is about the only time they even possibly could use that. So just the way we fund everything is going to need to be changed. So dollars collect, if you want trains and buses, they're going to need, the money for that should be collected from the metro area. If you collect that money at the metro area and take all of the rest of the money we're already collecting and put it back in, 100% back into roads and bridges, that will straighten a lot of it out. When all of the money we collect for roads and bridges goes to roads and bridges, then we can talk about raising the fees if we're short. But until the time that that money that we currently collect goes to the roads and bridges, I mean, 40% of the motor vehicle sales tax is going to trains and buses. So if that 40% was brought back over to roads and bridges, that would be a huge influx of cash. And then that takes you down the road quite a ways. And if at that point inflation has eaten away at the value of the dollar, then you can start talking about a gas tax increase. But tab increase, I think, is ridiculous. $750 some odd to buy a nice vehicle, a $60,000 or $70,000 SUV, which, yeah, that's out of my price range and out of most people's price range, but $750 is a little ridiculous for that, this staggered out fee. I have a problem with license plate fees to begin with.
Okay. I want to, now, a lot of people from all levels of government, when they look at the federal government, they feel like nothing's getting done. Look at the state government, look at our last legislative session, felt like not a lot got done. A lot of that comes from there not being a lot of unity and common work around solving some problems. How would you work to build unity if you are elected?
I think part of the problem, well, actually a large part of the problem, large piece of the problem we have with not getting anything done, the bill that the governor vetoed for the one minor, it could have been administrative fix, there was over 80 bills actually tucked into that one bill. You don't accomplish anything when you're grab one person, somebody off one side of the aisle and say, you need to vote for this because it has X in it. And you grab somebody on the other side of the aisle and said, you need to vote for this bill because it has Y in it. All of those bills, all 80 of those bills should have been voted on individually. A lot of those would have passed all on their own merit. And the ones that hadn't earned enough on their support from the various legislators would have come back either next cycle or just died by the wayside. But when you put all of these, there was 80 different bills or 80 different topics, subjects, and we do have in the state constitution, it does say single item or the single subject bill. You can't put 80 in there and still be constitutional, in my opinion. And that's where we should start, is dividing all of those pieces out into the individual bills. Many of them will just flow right through, pass, and no problem. So I've mentioned this before to some of our current legislators, and they say, you want us to go to a full-time legislature. I don't want you to go to a full-time legislature because I don't believe it necessary. In the late 60s and early 70s, our legislature managed to pass 1,100 and 1,200 bills per biennium, and now we're having trouble passing 300. A lot of that is because you've piled everything into one bill, and then everybody argues and twists and turns. The special session that's probably going to happen in the next couple of weeks is another great example of where you're not building unity, you're promoting diversity. division between everybody, because you have the governor, the Senate Majority Leader, and the Speaker of the House sit down and have a chat and decide what is going to be in the bill. That's not the way, that's not a citizen-run legislature.
We're almost out of time, so I just got like 15 seconds left. 15 seconds left. Give me a why should someone vote for you?
If you want something different at St. Paul, or a different set of ideas, a different way of approaching government, vote for me.
Well, Calvin Barr, thanks for coming in today and sharing some of your views and opinions with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I want to remind you, you can head to northmetrotv.com where we have our complete local decision coverage. We'll have results from the primary on there on August 9th, as well as we have complete candidate biographies on there, as well as more spotlights like these, all available for you to watch on there. I've been your host, Ben Hale. Thank you for watching.